2 years, I lived in a small apartment in Japan. I was 20 years old and a sailor in the Navy, and the low kind of sailor that actually ran a wet mop over the main deck every day. The commute consisted in a long, quiet walk, and then a quick train ride to the ship. It was peaceful and it was worth the rent, and I could even see a little bit of Tokyo Bay from my balcony. I ran through 6 roommates while I lived there. They were all friends I'd made when I first joined the ship. They were with me the first time I explored Yokohama and Tokyo. They took me to the red light districts, the punk shows, and the expat bars. None of us were supposed to be living out in town. That was a privilege for the officers and the ones with families. I guess the reasoning was that young sailors like us were too stupid to take on the responsibility of a lease. They were right. For one thing, we didn't know how to pay our bills on time. And after a long cruise, we might come back to an apartment without gas or electricity. And mostly we waited until we got late notices in the mail. And then we'd take them to a 7-Eleven where someone there would help us pay them off. Also, we weren't great at taking out the garbage. There are no dumpsters in Japan. And instead, they have this very complex recycling program. For instance, there are 6 bins behind our apartment. One for soft plastic, one for hard plastic, metal, paper, toxic materials, glass. And when I say bins, I mean they're like the size of these trash cans of the photocopier in the office. They're tiny. And the pickup days are arbitrarily set, so one plastic might be picked up the first and second Wednesday of each month, and paper might be picked up every 3rd Monday, unless it's a festival day. The problem with having close friends in the military, or prison for that matter, is that you're forced to be close to each other, and then watch each other go, one by one, when their time ends before yours. I took it really hard every time one of them left. I'm still friends with the guys I met in kindergarten. Loyalty is something that I value more than anything else in people. I've lied to the police for my friends. I've given money to help them get their cars out of the shop. I've visited them in psychiatric hospitals. And until the last roommate moved out of that apartment, I gave my loyalty without question. That roommate's name was Richard. I got an email from Richard before my ship pulled back into Japan. I was on a short cruise, but he had stayed behind because he was getting out of the Navy. He said that he'd be gone when I got back and that if I didn't mind, could I ship a few boxes for him back to his home in New Jersey. And before I go on, there's something else you should know. Richard was one of those guys that seemed to have a confidence and a wisdom beyond his years. And I don't know how he did it, but one night, Richard rescued me from a $2,000 bar tab at a Filipina hostess bar in Tokyo. For those of you who don't know, hostess bars are places where you pay for female company. It's like halfway between a strip club and just a normal Vegas bar. We called them buy me drink bars, and Richard saved my ass when I was drunk, stupid, and didn't know any better. I figured I owed him. So that night I opened the door to our apartment, and this smell hit me like a punch in the face. There was a short note from the neighbors on the door that I couldn't read, because it's in Japanese, of course. But I'm sure it said, well, I know it said something about the smell, and also that we were terrible, terrible neighbors, because 6 full 50-gallon trash bags sat in the center of my friend's bedroom. And then there was the overdue electric bill, so the refrigerator stopped working weeks before. In the living room were dozens of identical moving boxes, all stacked up. They were about the size of football or basketballs, and they all had his home address in New Jersey written on them. I opened all the windows and emptied the fridge. The smell was still so bad that I couldn't sleep, so I spent those nights in the balcony where I could at least breathe and where I could enjoy my view of Tokyo Bay for just a few more days. My biggest problem was that I only had a week left on the lease, and I didn't have enough time to sort all that trash and send it on the right day when I didn't even know which day to send it out on. So I asked one of the older guys on the ship what I was supposed to do about it, and this is what he said with a straight face. He said, "Oh, this is what you do. Find an empty lot somewhere, or a field, and then you just dump it. Everyone does it. It's like an unwritten rule." So the next day, I was driving around the neighborhood in a rented pickup truck full of garbage. I spotted a small field with a low fence around it. I hit the brakes, I hopped out, my friend and I started hurling trash bags like there's no tomorrow. Then this small voice called out from the apartment at the end of the field. He looked up and saw an old man pointing furiously at us, screaming from the second-story window. We were dumping in his backyard. I'm not proud of this, but we kept going until the truck was empty. Then, well, we sped off deeply ashamed, terrified, but we couldn't stop laughing. My first attempt at moving the boxes out of the apartment was primitive. I stuffed them into my government-issued sea bag, which could only hold 3 at a time, and then I humped them all the way to the ship. There wasn't any room that I had on the ship, so when I got there, I put it in gear lockers or other hidden places that not a lot of people went to. My plan was to take them to the post office when I had time, but there wasn't enough time to do it little by little, and carrying those boxes for an hour every morning turned my peaceful commute into a nightmare. I gave up after 3 days. Instead, I began looking for Japanese moving companies, and they came by the next Saturday and got all the boxes, and some of my own stuff too, into the truck and on the road by 10 o'clock. I was so relieved, it never occurred to me that the base guards wouldn't let my movers in without a pass. So we pulled up, and I saw the look on their faces. They had that same blank, dumb expressions that you see in gatekeepers everywhere. I knew we weren't getting in, so we did the only thing we could do. We turned around and headed back to the apartment. I only had a few days left before the lease was up. The post office was closed on Sunday, and I couldn't exactly get a day off for moving because I wasn't supposed to be living out in town in the first place. I had to call in some favors. So later that day, my friend and I pulled up to the post office in the same truck we used to carry the garbage, this time carrying boxes. The plan was that I would stay and process the shipments while my friend left to pick up the next load. The postal clerk was just shaking his head at me when he saw me, and he asked what was in everything. I just said, I don't know. And he said, just make it up. You have to put something down. So 30 minutes later, I was still filling out slips, and my friend returned. My back was to him, and he asked me once more, why are you doing this for Richard? So I barked back at him, because I'm fucking loyal! Well, he said, well, one of the boxes fell on the way over, and I swear it was an accident, but this is what came out. I turned around and looked at what he held up in his hands, and it was a pile of old Japanese karaoke catalogs the size of phone books. Up until this point, with everything concealed, this whole travesty was a chance to be stoic. To do what I said I was going to do for a friend. Then I looked in the boxes, and this is what came out. 3 more karaoke catalogs. A bag of doll heads. A box of Japanese condoms. A gallon of fake blood. 2 boxes were filled with toys from Japanese McDonald's. A blow-up doll. 3 pairs of old, y'all didn't want to see the blow-up doll either. 3 pairs of old boots covered in paint. An array of wigs and clown masks. A library of lunch menus from our favorite restaurants. More toys. The covers. Just the covers for a bunch of used VHS tapes. Finally, his wife's vibrator. There was a lot more, but I didn't have to look in them to know that I was moving the possessions of a hoarder. And I never admitted it to myself, but what could have been so important in those boxes? I didn't feel betrayed, not by Richard at least. I'd like to say that I learned something. Mostly it just pissed me off. I'd still do almost anything for a friend. Keyword is almost. The shipping at the point reached $480. I told them that would be it, and I never moved the boxes that I hid on the ship, which means, if we're lucky, there are still boxes of Japanese blow-up dolls floating around in the Pacific somewhere. When I emailed Richard that I wouldn't be sending anything else, he got back to me quickly, and he used only 9 words. He said, "That's okay. Thanks. Anyway, I'll never forget you, buddy." Well, it's only been 8 years, but I'll never forget you either, Richard.